Welcome to Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Robert Winters.
Judy Nathans.
We've been away for a few
Yeah,
weeks.
we've
playing
had
hooky.
right. Well, it's summer, and just like the city council, they haven't had.
That's
some
true.
meeting, but there
That's
has been
true.
a lot of activity. But yeah, and especially when the city council meeting got moved to a Tuesday, right, and when we would have done a show.
Yeah, it
Just
was.
last week didn't make sense.
That's
Yeah.
right. So normally
Yeah.
it would have been the one midsummer meeting.
Read that we would report on and
Yeah.
stuff. But
So that was scheduled for July 29th, but then they tried to put the agenda materials out on a Thursday.
1,700 and something pages.
Yeah, so it was
crazy.
1,700 pages. It was like about that thick.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and and that became the excuse for why they had to actually,
Because
in
they
order to
had
meet
something
public.
to post it or
Yeah, you
something.
need like a
yeah.
48-hour notice.
Yeah.
But the truth is you don't have to put all the agenda items out according to
That's
state law.
interesting. So why
You
do you
just need
think-
to announce the meeting and make sure if the meeting is noticed.
Which is what they had done.
Well, I think it's just that the standard practice at City Hall has been to have the materials available, on the Thursday night before a Monday meeting. But I don't think there's anything
I have
in
not
the
seen
laws
them on a
requiring
Thursday.
it.
Well, I don't know.
Well, you access them online. I mean, that's what I
Oh,
usually do.
online, right. But I mean,
Yeah.
I've gone there on a Monday morning and they weren't out, so I don't know.
What I usually do is we'll pick them up on Friday. Usually the city clerk's office would send them over to the senior center around noon.
You keep saying that, and I've gone to the senior center. I never see them. Do they disappear?
You got to ask.
Oh, they're not just out.
Yeah, and they don't.
Oh,
They
okay.
don't put. Well, sometimes they just put them right out there.
What about
and,
this big one? You think they had that one?
Yes, they did.
They did?
But it wasn't available Friday, so I think it was available on Monday. So
That's too
I
much.
do have a copy.
You're kidding.
I will be discarding 99% of it.
Well, dudes, I am looking for some of the
Yeah, there were a
the
few
stuff
things.
At the end,
You
the
know, honestly,
committee reports, yeah.
I do keep some of the agenda materials. I periodically weed it all out. And just keep like a few interesting reports. I
Yes.
particularly like reports from the Historical Commission on landmarking of buildings.
Oh yeah, I
There's
just
some
like
interesting
committee
stuff.
reports just to go over if I hadn't gone to the meeting. But
Yeah, and the thing is, good practice that city clerks have done in the past, though, if they had just a voluminous amount of material,
Mm-hmm.
they would basically say, if you want to see this stuff, it's on file at the city clerk's office. Just come in and see it. So
Yeah.
they didn't necessarily have to make it all
I
copies
think
available.
I think this has set a precedent where maybe they cannot. I
They
don't know
may.
how-
I think there's already some
You
talk
could build
about
a unit
yeah.
of housing for that problem. I don't
Really?
know. Maybe.
Yeah, well, the thing is, virtually all of it is available electronically anyway.
I know, but it's very hard to find things on a 1007. I was trying to say, well, wait, what's this go with this order? And you got to go. There's no way. There's no good search mechanism for it.
Well, the other thing too is
No.
that very few people know what the sort of order of the agenda is to even
Yeah.
to know how to look for it. you know?
Well, yeah, but yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons
Yeah.
why for some years
Yeah.
I put out my own little version of the agenda.
Yeah.
It's usually just a few pages long.
Yeah.
This one was extra big at about 10 pages
Yeah,
or
I
something.
see.
It's basically, so it's like a guide, a little compact guide
Mm-hmm.
that says, okay, then we go through the city manager's stuff, then we go through the calendar section, then we go into this.
Well,
and then
that
we
I
go into
know,
that.
but then there's attachments to stuff and descriptions of stuff, and you have to weed through all of that.
Yep.
And it's just very difficult.
Yeah, and I'll only put out the ones that I think are kind of interesting ones. I mean, if somebody's going to have a curb cut application and it's got
there's
50
like 10,
pages of
50
supplemental
pages,
material,
right, which is what a lot of this was.
there's
yeah.
no way I'm actually going to make.
Well, there
it
were
available.
3 big committee reports on this too, which I had.
That's actually what really
and all the
tipped
public
scales.
comment about the affordable housing. I mean, it was
The
like that
overlay
must have
thing,
been
right.
at least 50, 60
Yeah,
pages.
yeah. So anyway, they ended up moving the
Oh,
meeting
boy.
to Tuesday,
Tuesday at
and,
5:30, right.
And then it dragged on. I think meeting went till midnight.
It did. I watched it.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah.
And they'll be back September 9th. But the thing is,
Right.
meanwhile, there are some various committee things that are
There
going
were
on.
ordinance meetings. There was yes.
Yeah, so
Right after that, August 1st was the.
there was the
Yeah.
overlay proposal had
Overlay.
its what I think some were thinking would be its final ordinance
No.
committee meeting, but they ended up recessing the meeting,
Right.
and they will pick it up without any additional public comment.
Right, to basically
Thursday.
discuss amendments, which I was trying to find. Is that written?
You know,
out?
this is-
Did you go to any of those meetings where, did you go to the Thursday meeting? Where they
I
had apparently 8 documents that you could pick up?
think I
No,
did
you weren't.
not go to that
Okay,
meeting.
because I would like to get a hand of some of those. I'd
There,
like to
some of
see
them
the
were
amendments.
available at the council
But where
meeting.
would I find the amendments that were proposed? See, I was trying to find that
Some
in the
of them
July
were
30th
included
one.
amongst communications from city officers.
Right. I think Alana's had that.
So some of them were rolled in that way, and there was a late one from Quentin Zondervan that had some
Okay.
additional ones.
All right,
That
I
was
see.
a late
And where would
communication.
that be?
Well, the paper copies were available at the council meeting.
All right, because you're saying those amendments existed before the August 1st meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that's what
yeah.
I need. And I know they're in that big packet, but to find it
I
is
know.
ridiculous.
I'll tell you something. At the council meeting, there were people scrounging around through these few copies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big stack of these things.
Yeah,
Just trying to find the one or two things.
right, that they
and,
wanted.
And one person specifically said,
Yeah.
do you know where I could find the Zondervan amendments for the affordable housing
Yeah,
overlay?
yeah.
And I thought, well, it's a late communication to
Yeah.
from city officers,
Yeah.
and that's where you should find it. And I went through it and found it. There
So
were-
is that on your website? Do you have the? You know,
I
do
actually-
us a public
I do
service,
have
Robert.
those.
Can you
I
just
have,
post the amendments to your website?
I have the ones from Malin McGovern,
Okay.
one from Zondervan,
And what about
one from
Carlone? Didn't he redline
Yeah, I have all
something?
three
Is
of
that
them.
an amendment?
Yeah, if you go to the agenda,
Okay.
my agenda, all three of them there are
I
linked
will look
directly
for that.
from there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, it's complicated.
Oh
right?
boy. Oh boy.
To be
Oh boy.
complicated.
It is very complicated.
Yeah, and one of the things specifically on that the overlay is that some people are saying, and I think it's probably accurate, that there were so many amendments happening, furiously, relatively late in the game, that how are you going to make sense out of this and actually feel confident that you're actually putting something up
Yeah.
to be passed to a second reading that's actually consistent or intact. And I'm not sure that they can do that, but they may
Yeah.
try. I mean, it's
Well,
become very political now at this
I
point.
know, and a lot of people that in public comment that are pro I'm going to call it the AHO, not to be confused with ACA. What's it?
the Affordable
Anyway,
Care.
no,
Yeah.
Alexandra.
Yeah.
That they don't want any of the amendments. They want it just as it is. So I don't
Right.
know. I mean, I guess I would like some of the amendment. I want to read it again, but some made sense to me. But anyway.
I mean,
Yeah.
most of the amendments that I'm seeing are just sort of to make it palatable so that people who
Mm-hmm.
would otherwise be voting against it would actually be agreeable. I think that's really
Well,
what that's
a lot
primarily
of
about.
people are finding this like in the eighth inning of a game, and I don't think they have all the facts. I'm not saying either or. I'm just saying what I've heard on the street, and it was just recently, was that, and people are, I don't think they understand
I mean-
that it's not the same as any developer going in as of right. Because that's what a friend of mine
Well,
said.
what is true
There's
is
this
that
thing on my corner, and they had it as of right because they didn't
Actually-
have to get a permit. I said, but that's different.
No, wait. No, what is true is that any developer, as of right, could take advantage of this, but they would have to build something that would be exclusively
In
subsidized.
perpetuity. Plus, they have to
housing
go
with fee
through many
restriction.
more guidelines. I'm
Not that many more guidelines.
I don't know.
actually.
Did you go to Affordable Housing 101?
And the thing is that but the thing is the
funding is
their
different.
ability to build bigger, denser, and covering more of the lot is significantly more than would be if they were just a developer wanting to just build a project, that was not meeting the
Well,
guidelines.
I still
Right.
think there's more restrictions on
I mean,
anyone
that's the whole
coming
point
in.
of it. Is basically they were.
I
trying
understand.
To, rig the rules so that
Well-
is it written exclusively so that Homeowners Rehab and Justice Start or Sean Hope could be the developers? I think that was kind of the intention, but the thing is, you can't really write the rules that are specific to just three
No,
parties.
but you can make the requirements
Right. So
in order for the house to be
right.
onerous in a way, because they're used to having all
Right.
those requirements
So
to be
you
met,
could-
where a private developer isn't.
Right, but the thing is, you could have
So-
a developer come in from wherever, and as long as they could make money building it and then basically turning it over to the city or to homeowner
Without
rehab or
Affordable
whatever.
Housing Trust?
No,
without any of those
no.
funds?
With all of those, no, they could do it without the Affordable Housing Trust funds if they could make the numbers work. And I think the idea is if they're rigging it so that to make the numbers work. I mean,
Okay, so I think if they could tweak that in a way that could prevent from the bad apples getting in, which I thought they could. I thought there was too many restrictions for anybody out there saying, oh, I'm not going to make. Plus, they can never sell it. They can never sell it for a profit. It has to remain affordable for lifetime. And how many
Right.
people are going to like
so
that?
well, it depends on how the numbers work out. I
Well,
don't,
yeah, okay.
I haven't really worked that out.
That's all I'm
But,
saying right now.
I mean, my issue has right from the get-go been
Well,
what
yeah.
percentage of the city's housing stock should be subsidized, and they asked me flat out at the Envision Cambridge Housing Working Group, and I
Right.
said, well, it dropped below 15%. I think we should target make sure it gets back up to 15%. But there are other groups like the Cambridge Residents Alliance who have quietly on the side expressed a desire to have up to like a third of all housing units be subsidized in the city, which I think would not be a good idea.
Well, when you say subsidize, does that mean affordable housing, or is that what you mean by subsidize?
It's not market. It's not market.
Not
So-
market. Yeah,
so the
that's
thing
not
is
going to
that-
happen.
Right.
That's not going to happen. Not in any community.
Right,
I mean,
but I'm just saying
yeah.
is that there are political
Right.
players in this game
Right,
here
but-
who actually are kind of averse to the whole concept of private property. So the thing is,
Right.
they would like nothing more than to transfer as much of the housing stock in Cambridge as possible over into
But I think
quasi-public
that
ownership.
group isn't necessarily people like homeowners rehab and people that are actually do this for a business.
This
that
is
see
what
that.
homeowners rehab does for a living.
I know, but no,
It's
but it's not.
exactly
They're
what
not
they do.
Cambridge Residents Alliance.
No. But the thing is that the Cambridge Residents Alliance, not everybody is associated with them. They're actually kind of in a
I don't know.
political
I've
scheme.
been impressed by some of the people that work at homeowners that have spoken. I just feel like they know.
No, the thing is that in terms of what they do, you know, if the goal is to have X percentage of the city be, subsidized housing, then these are probably pretty good partners to work with.
Right, but
I
that
don't
isn't
think that's the
necessarily their
issue.
stance. Oh, I want to see 50% of this housing be subsidized. I mean, maybe. Maybe
Well, I mean, their goal.
they just want to be able to
Their
build
goal, I mean-
something without waiting 2 years of some neighbor appeal. You know, I just
Yeah,
think
but-
you
but-
got to get rid of some of that.
But I think it needs to be pointed
Roadblocks.
out. Justice Site is right now kicking off another gigantic project up on Ringe Ave where they're adding hundreds of units of housing. So
And-
it's not like they're unable to build
Of
housing.
course not. There's been housing all over. People don't realize how
Right.
much housing there is.
Yeah, so the
but
thing
that doesn't
is,
mean that
the
you
notion
know,
that somehow a company like Justice Start, which I always get confused, which is the one who already has like 6,000 units of housing in the city.
I thought 6,000 total since like the 80s. Because we've only built, 1,500 since a
Just for
certain time?
the 1,000
Yeah.
change is basically housing that has either been built or
Since-
preserved
right.
via the Affordable Housing Trust.
Right, which is great.
Which is something
Yeah.
the city was sort
Yeah.
of saying, well, that's a wonderful accomplishment. And
Right.
I sort of said, well, okay, fine. So you did that. You did
Yeah.
inclusionary zoning.
Yeah.
You're now requiring that of all new projects, they have to be economically
Mm-hmm.
integrated so that it's 80% market, 20%
Mm.
subsidized, right? Subsidized through higher rents for the other units in the property. So, so we actually have a bit of a pretty consistent housing policy already in place.
We do, but
What I don't understand is sort of
yeah.
say, well, why don't you think that's a good policy? Because a couple of years ago, people were saying, we should be celebrating the number of units of housing we've either built or preserved under inclusionary zoning and the Affordable Housing Trust.
But
And
wait a minute, those 1,015 are not just inclusionary zoning.
A lot of them are inclusionary,
Okay, yeah.
I think.
I frankly would rather see mixed income. Those aren't really mixed income. I don't care what you say. When you have $5,000 a month apartments, then you have 10 units of those can be for lower moderate. To me, that's not mixed income. But that's another
Well, I mean,
story.
it varies from project to project,
Yeah.
to be sure.
It does. Yeah. I mean,
But,
I think it still
but
should
I
drop.
just,
But
I just
you know,
have a fundamental public
I know.
policy dispute with this, is that
Yeah.
I don't think that the sky's the limit should be the policy of the city in terms of what the fraction of subsidized housing should be. And basically, there is no provision in the proposed zoning change here that would put any limit whatsoever on it.
well, except monetary.
Right, so the
So
thing is,
to me, that
so you-
rules the day anyway.
Right, but the thing is, so you create the mechanism through
Mm-hmm.
which you can actually transfer residential property from private ownership into public.
Couldn't that
ownership,
residential
and
person
do it
that
forever.
owns that property refuse to sell? I mean,
They
you
could
don't,
do
you don't
that.
take it by
Oh, yeah, yeah.
eminent
No, no,
domain.
I mean-
if they want $9 million for some of those places, would be $8 million.
Well, I mean-
that may not be affordable, even with that,
Right,
all that
right.
stuff.
So what will happen in some of the places in the tonier parts of town, I assure you, is
Nothing
that
is gonna-
is
the
that
neighbors
they'll
will
say
buy
that.
it.
Well, some of the neighbors will buy it, or else
Yeah.
what will happen is if somebody says, well, Justice Start says, well, we've got this advantage, so we're going to drop X number of millions of dollars to purchase the property, so we can do that. And then the developer who really, really, really wants to do a high-end project says, okay, I guess we just have to drop even more money onto and outbid them. And they'll do that, which will make that housing even
But
more
wait a minute,
unaffordable.
it can't be a high-end project if it has to be 100% affordable.
But the buyer who outbids Just to Start and the Affordable Housing
They
Trust.
still have to build 100% affordable, not high-end.
No.
That's not the way I understand it.
They build it within current zoning. The thing is that but every unit that they sell is going to be costing $2 million and upwards.
But then that's not an affordable housing
That's exactly
complex.
right. So in the tonier parts of towns, that's exactly what's going to happen.
So then it won't. Then that's just a private. No,
It's just a development, just like it's always been.
No, but
They'll simply outbid.
No, but it does. But I don't get it, Robert. What you're saying is that they can build that and sell for $2 million a unit and get away with this language. I don't see how that's possible when it's supposed to be 100% affordable. That's not affordable at $2 million a unit.
Nothing in this affordable housing overlay says that you must build that. You can build to within current zoning under the current rules.
Oh, that's not how I understand it. So maybe that needs to be clarified. No, I thought it all was restricted.
I think that's clear as a unmuddied lake, as an azure sky of deepest summer.
No, I don't see that at all. Then why call it an affordable housing overlay?
To give an advantage to somebody who wants to go and build in the 100% affordable so that they would be able to compete successfully, but it's not guaranteed that they could compete successfully.
Right now,
they could still be outbid.
But they are doing that now in Cambridgeport. You see these boxes going up for $2 million a unit. So that's still going to go on. Yeah. So why would you see it over there? They're not going to get a zoning break for that.
Because out in those parts of town there, the thing is the property is just intrinsically more valuable.
Okay.
So they could get a much higher price.
I need to get more, because to me, that I did not think was possible, that they could outbid someone and then build what they want when it's not going to be affordable. So to me,
because they're not building under the provisions of the proposed zoning code.
Well, then that's...
They're building under the existing zoning code, which is not going away.
The existing zoning code doesn't allow for more units in those Tony neighborhoods, though.
That's right. So the maximum number of units that you can build under current zoning will become tremendously more expensive, because they'll have to outbid some of the other companies. The affordable housing.
We need to let this go, because I am not understanding that part. I did not think that the zoning would specifically allow anybody to do anything in those areas.
And nobody's saying that,
because that's already going on.
Right.
So
it's just going to be. It's just that they'll have, if they have to outbid because they really want to build a project on Brattle Street, it's going to be even more expensive. If they want to build it as.
I don't think those Brattle Street neighbors are going to want, even if it's $2 million a unit, they're not going to want that overdevelopment in their neighborhood.
That's right.
So, but I haven't heard any of that argument against it. They're all against the lower income people coming into their neighborhoods.
I don't think that's really the issue.
For some of them it is. Come on.
Some
of the comments. My daughter was appalled when she heard some of these comments of people coming in and said, who do they think they are? What snobs? Blah, 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 blah. And I just feel like there's so many different ways people are coming into this.
But if you have 80 or 100 people coming up to give public comment, the fact is you're going to have a few snobs come in and do that.
Yeah.
I think it's statistically 100% guaranteed. Yeah, but it doesn't mean anything.
Well, it means something to somebody.
Yeah, I know. And then that's the part that'll get put up all over the press, saying, see, everybody who has questions about this must be a snob.
No. There were some good responses. There was some good on the other side. I was kind of balanced. I'm just saying a few stuck out that you've clearly, to me, represent people that really haven't read the whole thing or really are just looking out. I don't know. Well, before we go, I went to a thing last night, and Jan was there and Craig was there. It was something sponsored through WBUR, where they had Vancouver, Minneapolis, and Toronto talk about urban policy. And do you know that in Minneapolis and some other places, they're taking their single-family zoning, which is 80% of their housing stock, and turning it into what we're talking about.
Right.
But in Canada, they're doing it, and you know why people don't complain, one of the people said? Because we have better health care and free education, and people just accept certain things.
But it's an interesting thing. Really every time there's a newspaper article comes out in the New York Times or elsewhere about the fact that people, like in Seattle or Minneapolis, they're eliminating the exclusivity.
Well, it wasn't Seattle. This was
but
Vancouver,
if they're
Canada.
eliminating the exclusivity of single-family zoning, which I think is a good idea.
It's happening all over the country, so it's not just here.
Right, but the thing is that then what happens is, one of the propagandists from around here picks up on that and says, see, we have to eliminate this in Cambridge, or we have to eliminate this and that, where they refuse to acknowledge the fact that like 85%
Oh, we already have
of
multiple,
Cambridge is
right.
already
Right.
multifamily.
Yeah, one of the
So
women
is
that from Minneapolis said they don't
right.
have 3 deckers.
So
They didn't know what that
is
was.
the goal
Right,
to
yeah.
obliterate every
Right.
single family home in Cambridge?
No.
I don't think that would be a
No.
good idea.
Well, first of all, we don't. I'm sure if you looked at the housing stock, it isn't 65-70% single-family homes, is it? No, it couldn't be.
in,
we have
in
renters.
Cambridge, there are actually
No.
relatively few single
exactly.
family homes.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually
So
the
that's different
smallest
than,
part of the housing sector here.
Than Minneapolis, for
Right.
sure.
So, but the thing is that so it's what it kind of bothers me a bit when somebody
Yeah.
takes what
No,
is
I
fundamentally
agree.
a good
Yeah.
idea. I mean, there are a lot of the suburbs
Yeah.
around Boston that have single family zoning.
It's like comparing apples to
Right,
oranges.
and then they
Yeah.
but the thing is, the fact that if you want to make a town that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
allow anything but single family zoning, single family houses, and you want to change it to require them to have some, at least a fraction of the city or town also have apartment buildings, which I think would be exactly the right thing to do. That doesn't mean that shouldn't translate in any logical person's mind to the notion that somehow in a place like Cambridge or Brookline or Somerville or whatever, that every single family home should somehow be demolished to be
No, of course
replaced
not. No
by
one's saying
by a
that, but
multifamily
let's
home.
face it,
Some people are.
I know, but the policies over the last 100 have been racial lines have definitely determined a lot of zoning. I mean,
In
stuff is written
some
about
places,
a
but
lot
I
of
don't think
places.
there's any.
Maybe not.
There is no evidence to
Well-
support. In fact, I've seen explicitly written statement that was not really
Oh,
the
so
way
you
it
go
worked out in
against
Cambridge.
maybe not Cambridge, but in
No,
general,
but that's what we're talking about in Cambridge.
Yeah.
The thing is, every public policy that restricts has been abused
Mm-hmm.
or used wisely. Cambridge actually has zoning dating back to like 1926,
Yeah.
and I don't think that any of the patterns of
No, I agree. We have
racial
I mean, if
are
you look at
attributable
this
to
city, we
zoning.
have so many different kinds of. We have
Right.
apartment complexes. We have 3 families. We have 2 families.
Right.
We have singles.
Right,
Very unlike a lot of the country.
I
Yeah.
find it very interesting that there are a lot of the people who are bemoaning the fact that
Yeah.
there's high income people in parts of 02138 zip code or up in North.
What are you talking
Cambridge or
about down
whatever.
here? Who do you think's living in these $5,000 a month apartments
My
down
point
here? East
is,
Cambridge,
my
Kendall.
point
Yeah.
is that certainly even in the 40 years I've
Yeah.
lived here, those very same
Yeah.
neighborhoods were working class Irish neighborhoods
Right.
of middle
Good
income,
middle class,
whatever.
union jobs,
and
maybe
it's just
whatever.
that over
You're right.
time it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with
Yeah.
zoning.
We're not
What-
talking about Brattle Street.
what has
in particular.
happened,
It's-
right?
it's
But what
everything
has
else,
happened
yeah.
really is just that
Yeah.
there's been people coming to get, looking for jobs in
Mm-hmm.
either in the universities or in the high-tech economies of
Mm-hmm.
Kendall Square, and they are successfully competing for the housing. So areas that use, including my neighborhood too, which was
Oh yeah.
very, very mixed income, is sort of getting higher income because people are just
But
successful.
also,
at
people
purchasing.
bought 2 families because it was a way to stay. You could afford. You got to rent.
Back
and
when
that's
there
what-
were
yeah,
multifamilies.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
Well,
that's
still
how I was
are,
able
but- yeah.
to stay in Cambridge.
Unless
It
people
was-
change them to
Right,
condos,
because you
that's
could
true,
right. Well,
yeah.
it was the condominiumization has actually removed
That's-
the biggest means through which middle income people
That's
could stay
right.
in the city.
No, you're
I
absolutely
think
right.
it was a fundamental error to basically
Well,
allow it. I mean, I'm not against
Except
condominiumization.
condos, people
but-
could afford to buy versus they couldn't afford to buy a
Right,
house.
but if you were talking about a largish apartment building,
Yeah.
which is not like the little multifamily 2 or 3 family
Right.
that some plumber would have purchased once upon a time,
Right.
right? But if you're talking about a building that had 40 units here, that was not like the 2 and 3 family. So
Yeah.
if those all became condos, I don't think that would have been a bad
No.
thing at all, and I think that's actually been generally a
But
good
that
thing.
has what's happened a lot.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
But
So
why
I
is that
have
a
no
good
issue.
thing? You're taking away rental
No,
housing.
no, that's fine because the thing is that people they now have a means to sort of like climb up the ladder
Okay,
and sort of
okay.
guarantee their economic security, right? And the fact that you took away some rental housing is sort of it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
Well,
The thing
some
is,
people would argue that.
yeah, but the
that's
thing
not
is
true.
that almost all housing that's been built in Cambridge well, I wouldn't almost all, but a majority of housing that's been built in the last decade or so has not been for condominium sales. It's been for rental. So there's actually been a dramatic increase in the number of rental units
By who?
and a dramatic increase
Rental
in the
units.
number of
Who's I mean, really?
subsidized
Because
units.
it seems to me it's all been condo. Or
No.
rental
No.
units high end though. High end rental units.
Well, market, right. So when
Yeah,
they go,
market,
but
yeah.
the thing is that
Yeah.
virtually every stick of housing that's ever been built, when it's first built, is when it's usually most expensive. And then,
Oh,
if you build
think these are going to change? I don't
over
think so.
time,
Oh,
sure.
I doubt it.
So many of these buildings that are being built right now that are, being where they're charging ridiculous amounts of rent, will one day just look like some other apartment building.
Maybe,
and they'll
but
have
they
to
still
compete.
have a lot of costs that they have to recoup, and they even need those rents to come in.
Yeah, so in the upfront years, they'll definitely they'll
Well,
they'll
we'll
pull in
see.
this
In 5
income.
years, we'll see what the rents are. The rents have never gone down in Cambridge, so not that I know of. You can't compare your
No,
situation.
they've gone, and it depends
Oh,
on where
come
in
on.
Cambridge. Like for example, out in Concord Alewife right now, rents are going down.
But you're talking about where there's an overabundance of those tall buildings?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I
I
that's-
agree with that.
yeah.
I'm talking about,
Right, but very few people
yeah.
seem to be thinking in sort of the,
Yeah.
the big picture, the 5-year, 10-year horizon.
but a lot of people don't
or
want to
more.
live in those places. If you're
True.
single or a couple, yeah, but, you know.
Right,
just whatever.
right. Well, then, but that's why it will become more affordable. I mean, just like the basement apartments of yesteryear were the ones where people who I knew when they needed a cheap rent place, that's where they
Yeah,
went.
but again, don't compare that to those towers in Alewife.
Right.
you
Well,
know,
the thing
so-
is, they're marketing them
Those
for
basement
high-end.
apartments, nothing at least on the 3-family, 4-family level has come down. That's all I'm saying. At least in the neighborhoods.
Well, and nor will it, because right
Right.
now there's a dwindling stock of that
Exactly.
type of housing, and it's
And
pretty
people are
desirable
getting
housing.
top dollar. for,
Right. I mean,
you
the
know,
thing is, if
even-
you have a 3-decker that has a 6-room apartment on one of the floors or several of the floors, those are family-size apartments, and
you can get
we don't have too many of them. So
2,800 a month, 3,000.
at least, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Which
anyway,
is not affordable to most families.
right.
So.
But personally, I don't really think that there's much wisdom going on up at the council level in terms of trying to envision what the long view of this is in terms of housing.
Well,
It's still mainly driven by sort of a command and control mindset about, we got to rest
well,
these units over
once
here
you
right
make
now
a zone,
and put 'em
can the
under our
zoning be
control.
provisional for 2 years to try it out? 3
The,
years?
the right way to do this overlay would be to put in a sunset clause.
Yeah. Okay.
And, basically says, okay, we have an emergency, under
Okay.
emergency situations, you
Okay.
put in emergency rules.
Okay.
And then after
So
some
quickly,
period of
is
3 to
that
5 years.
is that agreed to or not?
No, the thing is
Okay,
that
'cause
that
I-
was
I-
what was being suggested, and now they've been replacing it with a review after 3 years, which means precisely nothing.
Well, maybe
So,
then that has to be stronger language because I would agree with that.
they do need to
If
change
they could
that.
do that, I would go along with
Yeah,
that.
make
Okay.
it a sunset.
Okay.
If you're going to pass something, so. Anyway,
right.
we'll talk about
Yeah,
elections.
other elections, right? We've
We'll be
covered the
back in a few
AHO,
minutes on Cambridge
ACO,
Inside Out.
AHO. All right.